Alright, welcome back to another YouTube video. So basically in this video, I will talk about the new updates to the Pro Edge, as well as all the features that's included with the Legacy Pro Edge. So this might be a long video, but a very informative one, and that will provide really great value. I'll try to condense everything all in one, so this will be your go-to video. So basically, this Legacy Pro Edge is still in beta testing for the rest of this month, and this will only be available on the Legacy Prime plan. The link will be in my description. But it's not included on the list of indicators yet. It will be included at the end of this month. So if you do sign up for the Legacy Prime plan this month, just shoot me a DM on Discord, and I will actually give you manual access to beta test this for the rest of this month. Okay, hopefully that does make sense. If you do find value in this video, please drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe. I do weekly uploads. Well, without further ado, let's dive right into it. All right, so first things first. So the name of this indicator is called the Legacy Pro Edge. So it will look something like this, on your TradingView chart. So basically, what you want to do is go to the Settings tab, go to Style, and in order to remove all this extra data, you just want to uncheck this input and status line. Uncheck that. It only shows you the name on this indicator, and this indicator was renamed to Legacy Pro Edge V6, as in Pine Script version 6. And I like to also uncheck long short signal. I like to uncheck these three and these three as well. That's just obviously this is personal preference. I like to keep these two on, as well as short and long stop loss. And that's all I do on the style tab. Visibility, you leave it as is. Properties, I don't really mess with any of this. I may also do high on this one. This is actually equivalent to the magnifying glass, which is only available on the premium plan. So obviously, if you don't have the premium plan, then you have to check default. But honestly, I don't really see much difference between the two. But if you don't know, so the magnifying glass was only available on the premium plan, but then they had a huge update with the strategy report. So this is basically the equivalent to the magnifying glass part, which actually makes the report look more accurate. But I don't really see much difference between the two though. But that's all I do on this one. Input tab. So one of the new major updates I did added was called the account mode preset, which is you have to choose custom in order to actually change any of these settings, right? But let's say if you want to do M&Q 45-second balance, so if you select that, what's going to happen is you have to make sure you are on the M&Q chart, which I am. That's why I said M&Q, and I put a time frame, meaning you have to be on the 45-second time frame. So anything under 1 minute, you have to be on the premium plan. So obviously, if you don't have the premium plan, you cannot use 45 seconds. Okay, and see how it actually changes. So it doesn't really matter what you change in the settings. So I can change, I can uncheck that, and you'll see nothing changes. Why? It's because I have a preset selected, so it prevents you from changing anything. And I chose to name it balanced because you can use this basically on an eval account or a funded account, so it's quite balanced. You don't pass too quickly unless if the market is really in your favor, but you don't blow your accounts fast. And on average, it may take maybe 1 or 2 weeks to pass. Usually no more than 3 weeks for this one, okay? So that's basically, you'll see the strategy report, like so, okay? And I also added basically a new one called the M&Q 45-second balance V2 as in version 2. So this is actually an upgraded version. So if you select that, it actually has a better P&L, over almost 10,000. Drawdown almost just under 1,000. 85 profitable trades, profit factor 4.1. So I may actually be using this actually next week. And then also have MAQ 45-second eval aggressive, which is actually meant for passing your eval account faster, but it can also blow it faster too. But it didn't really seem like it did good this week actually, but it was actually up like $12,000 in PNL. But I guess this week or last week, I don't know. I guess it dropped down. But when I actually did this initially, it was actually 12,000 in PNL. And then I also added an MNQ 1 minute V1 as in version 1. So for those who don't have the premium plan, obviously you cannot use the 45 seconds. So I did actually have a 1 minute option for you guys. So you can select that. But since I have 1 minute, you do have to select 1 minute as well, okay? So I was actually quite impressed. These MNQ 1 minute was actually better than the 45 seconds. But obviously the settings is different. So for example, if you chose the 45-second time frame, you can actually select other time frames. It does actually change the PNL, as you can see. So as you can see, it does actually alter the PNL. That's actually why I chose 45 seconds, because why these settings I picked for this one was optimized for the 45 seconds. So I'm just giving you an example on that one. MAQ 1 minute V1, these settings were optimized for the 1 minute, meaning they don't use the same settings, okay? So every settings per preset was optimized for that specific time frame. They don't use the same settings. Okay, and then I also have the MES 1 minute V1. So if you select that, click OK. So therefore, I do have to select MES. Select this one and make sure you're on the 1 minute time frame. And then this is the MES preset, okay? I don't have an MGC preset yet, but I will probably in the future. But these are all the presets I have right now. Obviously, if you are in my Discord group, if you actually come up with settings, just shoot me a DM. You would need to share your chart layout with me. And then you would need to show me screenshots that you've been profitable at least for 1 or 2 weeks. I would say at least 2 weeks. So you would need to send me at least screenshots of your account of 2 weeks of trading using the exact same settings, because I want to see if it was actually profitable in live trading. Okay, hopefully that does make sense. And if everything checks out, and then I'll name it your ticker plus the time frame, and then I'll put your Discord name included on that preset. So if anyone asks you basically what settings you use, you can basically tell them it's gonna be in one of the presets. Just choose my Discord name, so you can get basically credit for that preset. So you don't have to keep sharing the charts all the time or sharing the same settings all over again. You can just tell them, go to the preset and just search for my Discord name, or just click on my Discord name. So hopefully there'll be more presets coming up in the future, but this is just to get you started and just to give it an idea. And also I will be uploading an Excel sheet to my Discord community, so you will know exactly which settings that was selected for each preset. Just in case if you want to actually modify any of these presets, you will know exactly what I selected for this preset, and you can modify it in any way. So that document will be uploaded in my Discord community, so you'll know exactly which settings I use for each preset, just to give you guys an idea. Maybe you guys want to alter, modify it in a way to make it better. And also secondly, I will be uploading another document also in my Discord community, basically a PDF document explaining what each feature of this does, as well as giving you guys an example, so you guys can always refer back to if you don't know what it means. And you can always click on this description. It's very detailed. It will actually tell you exactly what it means if you have no clue. So there's that. So going back to, let's choose custom, going back to M&Q. There you go. And let's move on to the next setting. All right, so moving on to the next setting. So in order to change any of this, make sure you do select a custom if you're not using a preset. So session filter, obviously you always want to have this check. I would not recommend changing this. This is based on New York time session, EST. And then you also have this day filter section. This is a new feature that was added. So if you do actually unselect this, it does actually trade every single day as long as the market is open. But you can also check this by default as well, and you can actually change any days. So basically how this works is that, for example, on a Friday, it's gonna go off Thursday. So basically Thursday at 1800 EST is considered Friday, okay? So you can trade on any specific days. So there's a day filter. That's pretty much self-explanatory. So another example is Monday, Asia session, 1800 EST. It qualifies for Tuesday. Okay. So when you uncheck this, it goes off on Monday, 1800 EST. That qualifies for Tuesday's trading day. Okay. Hopefully that does make sense. But for me, I usually keep all this check, but that's up to you. The next, we also have Asia session. Obviously, I want to trade the Asia session. And I like to actually, you can change the times as well. So this is based on EST. So I'm going to choose 1850. So it will trade 15 minutes after the Asia open. And then you can also check this. This is checked by default. You can check how many trades you want. I usually do 2 trades for Asia session. And then you do have the option to do longs only or shorts only or both. So that option is there. And then we also have the London session. So it does begin at, actually, this is actually 9 o'clock. Basically 9 o'clock p.m. PST. A London session actually begins at 3. It actually begins at 3 a.m. EST. But I find doing at midnight actually works better for me. And then same thing, I only do 2 trades in London session. Same thing, you can enable longs only or you can enable shorts only. You can just check both of them. If you do uncheck this, then it will take unlimited trades. Obviously, we always want to have a limit. And then London session check. I don't trade New York session, so I do keep that off. So hopefully this section does make sense to you. Enable cooldown period, this is in minutes. So I do have that check. So it's 5 minutes. So after a trade ends, it has to wait a minimum of 5 minutes before it can take the next trade. Okay. You can change this to 10 minutes. If you're doing 1 hour, you do have to put 60 minutes. If you're trading 2 hours, then you have to do 120 minutes because this is in minutes. Okay. I usually do 5 minutes, but feel free to experiment with it. Then I usually keep this section by default. Market intelligent engine, fast email link 21, slow email link 50. Momentum sensitivity, I keep that 14. Bullish confidence level 55. So if it's above 55, it will enter a buy trade. It will bearish confidence level 45. If it falls below 45, it will enter a sell trade. Okay, this is basically smart engine. Higher time frame confluence. This is completely optional. I got this from the sniper bot, which is one of my other indicators. This is completely optional. I keep all this on check. I don't find it actually works well. It actually does decrease my PNL, but you do have the option to check this. You can choose high and ashy candles or regular candles, and then you can choose the first time frame, 5 minutes, second time frame, 30 minutes. So meaning the logic has to match the 5-minute time frame. It does have to match the 30-minute time frame, and it also has to match the 1-minute time frame. So all 3 has to be checked for a signal to generate. But I keep all this on check. Like I said, completely optional. I don't really see it doing well. It does actually decrease my stats. Okay, but feel free to experiment with it. And then this is a new feature, signal quality filters. Okay, So it's actually a lot to talk about. But if you don't know what any of this does, just click on this exclamation mark. It will give you a description. So this requires volume to exceed its moving averages before allowing entries. Filter out low conviction moves, okay? So you can have volume filter. You can check that. You can change the volume length, okay? And then this is the enable candle body filter. So this blocks entries on indecisive candles where the real body is small relative to the candle's range, reducing doji style noise. So you can check that and you can change the minimum body percentage of range, okay? Body percentage of range. And you see how it changes the PNL when you actually check these, right? And then we also got the enable floor filter. So same thing, just click on that. Then we also have the enable trend confirmation bars, and then enable session open buffer. Then we also got the enable price extension filter. And then this is actually one of the features I do like. It's called enable choppiness index filter. So it basically blocks entries when the choppiness index shows sideways or whipsaw conditions, a different measure of chop than the ADX based adaptive smart engine, okay? So you can check this, and this is the max choppiness level and the choppiness length. And just FYI, some of these features does actually work well with other tickers, and some does not. So just keep that in mind. So some of these features does work well on specific tickers compared to others, okay? Because I found some of them actually did really well on MES, but it doesn't really do well on MNQ. And then we also have the Bollinger Bands feature as well, which I don't really use, or just haven't really found the best settings for it at the moment. And then there's the enable rejection wick filter. You can also check that or uncheck it. Like I said, I will have a PDF document, and it will actually explain what each feature does, and it will also give you an example for each feature too. So when you check this, you can see it will make the PNL bigger or smaller. So keep that in mind if you're wanting to experiment with it, okay? Adaptive Smart Engine, I'm not gonna go through this, but you do have to have this checked in order to use any of these features, but I personally keep it unchecked. But I'm not gonna go down this list, but you can just, read, just click on the description tab. I don't really mess with any of this. Okay, all right, moving on to the next section. All right, so for the next section, we have the take profit settings, okay? So you have the option to choose points, ticks, money, percentage, or pips. Pips is for Forex. I personally do points, quality format, percentage or contracts. I do contracts. Enable take profit 1. If you're just using take profit 1 and stop loss, then the only thing you have to do is just uncheck this. And you just want take profit 1 to be 50 points since that's set to points. And then we're just going to do 5 contracts. And then where it says stop loss format, you do have to change this from ticks to points because they both have to be the same, okay? Take profit points, take stop loss format points. They have to be the same. And then stop loss value, you can choose 45 points. So if you win, you gain 50 points. If you lose 45 points, okay? And then we also have TP2 and TP3. I personally do 25 points, and I'm gonna take off 3 contracts at take profit 1. And then I'm gonna check enable take profit 2. And then I want this to be at 50 points, and then I want to remove another 2 contracts. Okay. And also something I did forgot to mention, martingale feature base contract quantity has to be set to 5, okay? Why? It's because I'm using 5 contracts. So take profit 1 has to be, it takes off 3 contracts at 25 points. Then it's gonna remove another 2 contracts at 50 points, okay? because 3 plus 2 is 5. So this has to be the same. Now, and then another example, if you still don't get it, let's say I want to do 8 contracts. Okay, 8 contracts. Then I would need to do 4 contracts or 4. As long as TP1, TP2 adds up to 8, okay? So it takes out 4 contracts at TP1, another 4 at TP2. Or you can do 5 contracts at TP1 and maybe 3 contracts at TP2 as long as they're both adding up to 8. Or you can just uncheck that and just take off all 8 contracts at take profit 1. So that's how you actually work that. So make sure you're actually doing the math correct, okay? In note, enable martingale, this does not have to be checked, okay? It takes off the contract's base contract quantity automatically. So if you go to properties, it does not matter what you change this to, it's not going to reflect what's on the chart, okay? So because what's on the chart, it's going to go off based on this part, okay? So I've been using 5 contracts, and then I've been doing basically 3 contracts and then 2 contracts right there. And you can also do, take profit 3, but I don't usually do TP3 though. And then you do have the option to move stop loss to entry after TP1 hits, and then move stop loss to TP1 after TP2 hits. Then of course pip multiplier, this is only for those people who trade Forex. I personally use break-even feature instead. I keep this checked by default, and then I usually do 30 points, meaning it has to move 30 points in your direction, like in profit, and then if it reverses back, it's gonna stop you out at entry. But I usually do break even offset points at 5. So what this means is that if it moves 35 points in your direction, in your profit zone, but it actually reverses back, then it's gonna hit 5 points above that entry level. So it's gonna stop you out, and at least you'll gain 5 points in profit, if that makes sense. So I find the break-even feature to work a lot better compared to these two, okay? And then another new feature I added was enable trailing stop loss. So same thing, you can choose whatever you want. I use points, and then it's going to start trailing after 20 points. So once it reaches 20 points in profit level, then it's going to trigger trailing distance. So let's say if it moves 40 points, but it's gonna fall back 10 points, it's going to stop you out. So you'll gain a 30-point profit. So you can check that or uncheck that. Hopefully that makes sense. Martingale feature, I'm going to skip this part. Don't even bother enabling it. It's not working at the moment, because the reason why, it's mainly because it uses partial profit levels at the moment. So martingale is actually unavailable. It's not working, so please do not check it. It's not going to work at the moment, okay? And then we get these winner lockout settings. You do have the option to choose per day or per session. And then you do have 1 to 10. So if you do select 2, enable this. So meaning it will stop you out. If you win 2 trades in a row back to back, it stops you out for the rest of the day. Okay. And we also have these consecutive loss lockout settings. Same thing, you can choose per day or per session. I choose per day, and let's say 2. So same thing, if it hits 2 full stop losses back to back, it's going to stop you out the rest of the day. And this does reset every day at 1800 EST Asia Open, okay? Hopefully that makes sense. And then we also have the option to contract cut downsizing. Same thing, you can do per day or per session, okay? So I have 1 for reduced contracts buy after each winner. So let's say you have 5 contracts, right? You win 1 trade, next trade drops down to 4. you win another trade, it drops down to 3 and so forth. Okay, you can enable that or disable it. And you do have the option to customize your take profit stop loss zones if you want specific colors. You do have that option right there too. And then we also have a new feature called the news filter option. So how this works is, let's say you enable this one. So news blockout windows, meaning it will not take a trade from 1825 to 1840, okay? So you will need to adjust these times based on the news, okay? So if news comes out at 8:30, then 5 minutes before the news, and then probably, you can do 5 minutes after the news as well. And then make sure you do also check this, meaning if you are in a trade, it will actually exit the trade before by this time. So if you're in a trade, it's gonna flatten it by 8:25. And then the next signal cannot happen until after 8:40, okay? And you can only do up to 3 news filter at the moment. And then I also have this enable daily profit limit and enable daily stop loss limit as well. I actually recommend doing this basically in the platform or broker settings, but you can also do it in the TradingView settings as well. Okay, all right, moving on to the next section. All right, so the next section, we have the trend and bias filters. So you can enable the VWAP filter. Most of you should know what the VWAP is. And then you can also enable the macro trend filter, and you can change the macro trend length. Most of you guys should know what the trend filter is. And then we also have the enable higher time frame RSI alignment and enable market structure break. I'm not gonna really go in detail with this. I don't really find this actually working really well. But like I said, there's a lot of different combination. You just have to find the right ticker and the right basically time frame that these settings works best at. Okay. And they also got this timing and risk filter, so you can choose Asia plus London or London plus New York overlapping risk filters. So you can enable opening range breakout filter and also enable equity drawdown auto pause. Honestly, I'm not gonna really explain this. It's gonna be in the PDF document anyways. And then also got the enable minimum risk to reward gate. This actually doesn't really do anything. I'm actually not sure why I placed that there. And then we also got this enable re-entry price zone cooldown. This is actually one of my favorite features. So if you click on this, it actually does increase the P&L. I'll actually explain this later. And then we also have the enable inter-market confirmation as well as the confluence scoring. I'm not gonna really explain in detail with this. It will be in the PDF document. And then you can also customize the table. So we do have a table in the upper right corner. So you can change its precision size, and you can also change the sizing as well. And you can also toggle this on and off. Let's say you want to show the daily P&L only. You can also do that as well. Or you can show the weekly P&L as well as the monthly P&L as well on that one too. Okay, so going back to my preset, let's go back to 45-second balance V2. 45 seconds, okay. Actually, no, actually, let me actually go back to custom real quick. Let me just double check my settings first. So I actually want to show you an example that actually took place. So I was actually in this trade. Unfortunately, I did actually lost this trade. As you can see, basically for this chart, today's loss was actually $900. So I did lose 900 because if you a full loss with my settings, you do lose about 450, and then obviously another 450. So that's basically $900 right there, and then another 450 loss. That's 3 losses consecutive back to back. And then I basically won this trade. A full take profit is basically a 450. So this two trade basically negated each other. Okay. So basically for this trade, I did lost $900, which actually showed right there. So on my actual account, let's go to Lucid. I lost about 963, so it's about almost the same. It was just a 63 different. Of course, a slippage and TradingView delays. Obviously, we have no control over that. So as you can see, like I said, $900 loss, which was basically almost accurate to what my actual account is. So obviously this is true. And obviously 4 trades, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it shows your weekly. So this week I'm up $2,000. But however, I did actually manually counted it starting from Sunday to now. And it's actually 1980. I'm not sure why. I noticed I did it multiple times. I know there's a 93 difference every single time. So basically whatever this week shows, you just have to subtract $93. So if it shows basically 2073, hold on, 2073 minus 93. So basically the real P&L is actually 1980 for this week. Okay. For some reason this week just adds on an extra $93. I'm not sure why. So whatever this week shows, just subtract it by 93. But the daily P&L seems to be always on the spot. So this is always accurate, but this week always subtract 93. Okay. Hopefully that does make sense. So basically, I was actually in this trade. Unfortunately, I did not win. It was actually a red day. If you go back to, I did actually calculate it manually. So this week was actually my start time with Asia session at 1850. So basically, Monday I gained $60. Tuesday was 1,240. Wednesday was also another 1,240. Thursday was actually plus 340. But unfortunately, Friday was actually the only red day this week, which was $900. So which means total was actually 1980 for this week. Okay. But the reason why I have a red day is mainly because I started using the start time at 1815 starting at Thursday. That's why. My start time for Asia session was actually at 1800. This is why I had a red day, and obviously Wednesday I would have been up another, I think 1,240 or something like that. I can't remember exactly. But like I said, it's not accurate because of delays and slippage, but it's almost about the same, I think. So yeah, but it should be about the same as this one. But like I said, I started using the start time 50 minutes later, starting at Thursday. Okay. Hopefully you guys understand that. All right. So if you go back and if you do select this one, we'll just enable re-entry zone. If you enable that, let's see what happens. So instead of losing this day, it actually won. Why? Because it's gonna analyze the first trade. It said, so basically the first trade was a loss. So what's happening is the next trade, it's not going to enter within 20 points, okay? So any signal within 20 points of that stop loss is going to be ignored, okay? The next signal will happen after 20 points. So since I have it set to 20 points, obviously you can change this to whatever you want, okay? But it uses 20 points by default. So the stop loss is right there. So the next signal within 20 points of that stop loss price will not take place, okay? It has to wait until it's been at least after 20 points for the next signal. And as you can see, the next signal happens to be a winner. And then the next signal, you had basically 3 full take profits. That is insane. 1 loss followed by 3 consecutive winners. And this stop loss applies all throughout, okay? So which means the third and fourth trade cannot be within 20 points of that stop loss price unless there's a new stop loss. Okay, it only goes off based on the most recent stop loss price. Okay, I find this sitting to work really well with M and Q. I find this to work really well with M and Q, but when you use this on MES, it does not perform well. Okay, the PNL decreases drastically or a lot with MES. So you have to find, the best ticker, the best time frame, and just the best settings. Because obviously every ticker, every time frame will have different settings that can be optimized for. Okay. So you have to find different combination. That is the purpose of beta testing, so we can find different combos. And same thing with 3873 this week. Just subtracting by 93 points, and that's your total PNL for this week. Okay, looking at the PNL for the last 7 days. So last 7 days was really good. But obviously, this strategy report, I'm going to say this strategy, I meant not the strategy report. This table is actually a lot more accurate compared to this. Obviously, this week was last 7 days. Last 30 days. Wait a second. Whoa. Last 30 days was actually really good. Let's see what last 90 days. I usually typically only do 7 days and 30 days. Sometimes I may do 90 days. But I find 90 days sometimes, and anything beyond 90 days doesn't really give you an accurate report. Because the farther you do go back, then the less accurate the report becomes. The closer the dates are, the better the report is. Then you can also adjust the dates. You can only adjust the dates if you do have the premium plan, just FYI. So we're going to go back to Sunday this week to Friday, and let's see what it gives us. So it's almost about the same, but this, I would say this table is actually more accurate compared to the strategy report. But like I said, this is actually a non-repainting indicator. So what you see on the chart is it just stays there forever. So you can always go back and basically and just count the trades yourself on Sunday for an accurate number. That's what I did. But on the 45-second time frame, you can really only go back 2 weeks. It seems like on the 45-second, but I usually count the number. So if it hits take profit 1, that's 150. Breaks even, that's plus 20 points. Full stop loss is obviously 450. Full take profit 450. So I pretty much got it memorized already. So, and there'll be more updates coming in the future, but this update will be releasing tonight. I'm really excited for this new update to launch. And I will have a PDF document in my Discord. It will explain to you what each feature does, and it will also give you an example of each feature as well. And then I will also have an Excel sheet explaining the settings that was selected per preset. And if you have any new settings you want to share with me, by all means, go for it. If you want to add any of your settings to on this preset, obviously there's always available 24/7. Just shoot me a DM on Discord. Right? Hopefully you find value in this video. Please drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe. And also another thing is I do use Traders Post. So the link is in my description for Traders Post. And use my coupon code. You do get a discount for that as well. Other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next week's video.